You know, domestic violence is a spirit crusher.
This is a public safety issue for all of us.
Many communities and many people were not willing to accept the fact that there were issues of domestic violence happening in their neighborhoods, in their community.
This is a serious problem. This is not just a problem that we can just push under the rug. People are dying. Children are being seriously affected.
When the women come to the shelter, are always very tearful, fearful.
We have nearly 80,000 employees, 50% of whom are women. We feel like it's our responsibility to take action on this.
It's wrong when somebody is victimized by violence.
What is it that we can do to help make sure that victims of domestic violence who reach out for help, who say, I want the abuse to stop, I want to live a life free from abuse, I want this for my children, I want it for myself, that happens.
Our mission is to lead, to advocate, to educate, to collaborate, to end domestic violence in Arizona.
The biggest changes that have occurred to the coalition in the last 30 years is really the difference between starting out as an organization that was started by a very dedicated group of volunteers and women who recognized the need for an organization that would do advocacy and education in the state of Arizona. With the passage of the Violence Against Women Act in 1994, there was actually funding provided for state coalitions to form to be able to help work with law enforcement, prosecution, and courts and victim services to be able to coordinate and create protocols and policies around serving victims of domestic violence. The single most important mission of the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence is to end domestic violence in Arizona and working to address the systems that allow domestic violence to continue. We wouldn't be able to accomplish our mission without working with all of the different partners that we have throughout the state of Arizona.
I've been involved with the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence since its inception. I'm one of the founding directors of the coalition. And actually, one of the reasons that we decided to bring the coalition to the state was because as new agencies back in the day, we knew that we were beginning something that was going to be very, very powerful. And we also knew that we were going to need the help and the support of all of the domestic violence programs to make a difference. We also knew that having a state coalition was going to make a powerful difference in terms of legislation. And right now, that is the most powerful force that our domestic violence programs can have in the state. We depend a lot on what's going on at the coalition to make a difference, and they have really come through.
Penny Willrich is a retired Maricopa County Superior Court judge who was instrumental in writing laws related to orders of protection and shelter privacy within the state.
Today we have a very, I would say, progressive bench in that it looks at issues of domestic violence very seriously. A collaboration between the advocates and the law enforcement officers are going to affect the courts, because the courts are like, wow, law enforcement and people that generally they might be at loggerheads with are here saying we need you to join us, and so then the court joins. The coalition has just done a wonderful job, I believe, in being a collaborative entity working with state, local officials as well as community organizations in helping to push to stop and prevent domestic violence.
Apache Junction Police Chief Jerald Monahan works alongside many community partners to prevent future deaths as a lead on the state's Fatality review team.
The relationship between law enforcement and advocates has just been a tremendous partnership from years ago when it was complaint-based and we were pointing the finger at each other, to now we sit at the table in various meetings and reviews and we see ourselves as partners. And again, the leadership of the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence has played a huge role in that. It's organizations through the legislative work of organizations like the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence that have been huge partners in pushing the legislation through to address this problem. And what's good about them doing that is they're certainly seeing it from the victim's eyes.
The Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence collaborates with diverse communities throughout our state to support unique education and legal needs.
The community Latina community, victims of domestic violence are very fearful of the legal system, making police reports, navigating the legal system, getting orders of protection. It's more fear for the women to seek for services. Plus, there are very limited resources for this population. The options that we have right now for this oppressed population, victims of domestic violence, is making more connections with others, programs, working as a team, with the Arizona Coalition, with other organizations in order to come together and work together for victims of domestic violence.
I think working with Native women, it is very difficult because you deal with a lot of jurisdictional issues. In our community, we have women that come from maybe other tribes across the United States, and the laws are different. Their tribal laws are different, and then crossing boundaries and that are also federal boundaries that they cross and dealing with those laws. In the recent passing of the Tribal Law and Order Act, it now allows for tribal communities to better increase sentencing and fines on perpetrators.
The Verizon Wireless Hopeline program recycles phones and accessories to support domestic violence services. As a major employer, they also serve as a critical conduit for education about the issue.
Domestic violence is a core program that Verizon Wireless supports because of the magnitude of it. The reason we like to support groups like the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence is because we're just one small part. And certainly we're trying to do our part through Hopeline, through employee awareness, and the various vehicles we have, but we know we could reach out so much farther.
The Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence and its partners have made significant accomplishments and saved many lives, but there's still more to do. 1 in 4 women, regardless of culture, class, education, age, and income level, will experience domestic violence in her lifetime.
I grew up in a really supportive, wonderful family, knowing nothing about domestic violence that occurred in other families. I got married at a very young age and left the state with my husband and began to experience and realize what domestic violence was in all of its forms. And there certainly were times that I thought he was going to kill me. When I left my husband, I didn't have a college degree. So I took out student loans, got a job, found care for my child, and finished my undergraduate degree. And then I decided to go on to law school. That was just such a moment because having come from that marriage where I just felt crushed, and to be on that stage getting my law degree, my spirit soared. I think that the important thing to know is if you're a survivor, you have a duty to tell others about it and save others and use that experience not to define you, but as a great growing experience in your life, as a great lesson in your life, and pass it on.
Everyone can speak out against domestic violence. The problem will continue until society stands up with one resounding voice and says, no more. We invite you to join us in our mission to lead, advocate, educate, collaborate, and end domestic violence in Arizona. Contact the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence at www.azcadv.org or 602-279-2900 for yourself or to help someone in need.